Hey, Rebel Rouser. I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7. We're at episode number 1568, and today I thought we would do an update on something that we haven't done an update on in a while, and that is also something that it's really kind of hard to get some information on. Not that it's easy to get information about projects that are in development at Lucasfilm. They are doing as best they can to lock information down, to be sure, and only letting information out when they are ready to. But, be that as it may, we haven't talked about the 7th and final season of the Clone Wars in a while, and so I thought we would revisit that topic, because it turns out that we have a narrowing down, if you will, of the possibilities of the storylines that could be covered inside that final episode arc of the show that's going to be on the Disney streaming service, Disney Play, in the fall of 2019 or shortly thereafter. So here's what we know so far. According to various sources at Lucasfilm, there were 13 different story arcs that had been created that were quote-unquote unproduced once we get past the Lost Missions episodes, which were the episodes that formed a sort of season 6 of the Clone Wars and that appeared on Netflix. So in addition to that information, we also are aware that most of the episodes, if not all of them, for the Clone Wars series were starting to fall into 4-episode arcs. Most of the stories were working out that way. So basically, you've got 13 story arcs, and each of them being 4 episodes long. Now, we also know that the Clone Wars Saved Season 7 situation is going to be 12 episodes long, so that tells us that we're dealing with 3 story arcs. And we pretty much know what at least one of them is, right? That's the Siege of Mandalore, because we've seen that Clone Wars Saved trailer, and we see the shot toward the end with Ahsoka Tano and with Bo-Katan, and I mean, that's got to be the big, crowd-pleasing favorite. We were talking about fan service yesterday. I mean, that's about as fan servicey as you can get, deciding to tell that story once and for all. So that's one of our 3 story arcs. That's going to be a 4-episode story arc as part of the 7th season of the Clone Wars. So now the big question is, what are the other 2? So here's what we can at least do for a start. There are 12 other story arcs that we have to choose from. We can eliminate, I believe, 7 of them right off the bat, because there's every reason to believe that Filoni and team will not go back to things that they have already released information about, specifically the stories that were revealed as part of the Clone Wars legacy. And so that means that the Son of Dathomir story arc, which was produced in a 4 comic book series, and then also the Crystal Crisis on, here we go with pronunciation, Utapau, the planet with the sinkholes where Obi-Wan faced down and beat General Grievous once and for all. Okay, so that storyline, and the Bad Batch storyline where animatics were produced but not fully produced episodes. Okay, so that's 3 story arcs. And then also Dark Disciple, the novel by Christy Golden, is a telling of 2 complete story arcs that were intended for the Clone Wars, 8 episodes. And so there's your 4 and 5. And the line that Ahsoka delivers inside the trailer for Clone Wars Saved, where she says, "Hello, Master, it's been a while," and Bo-Katan is there in the hologram with her, it suggests that they haven't seen each other. And there are 2 unproduced story arcs that involve Ahsoka Tano, and I think that this means that neither of those 2 are going to be produced. The first of those arcs is what happens to Ahsoka after she leaves the Jedi Temple, after she has quit the Jedi Order, and she ends up going into the Coruscant Underground and having adventures there and whatnot. And that's supposed to be 1 story arc of 4 episodes. And while she's down there, she discovers a threat to the Jedi Temple, and there's a whole thing about how, they find out that the Jedi Temple is built upon a Sith site, and that becomes its own story arc. And so Ahsoka actually returns to warn everyone of the danger. And so that story arc, if Ahsoka in the Clone Wars Save trailer is saying it's been a while, well, it doesn't really seem to suggest that they've had any contact since her departure from the Jedi Temple. And so I would say that it's probably going to be just contextually jarring for most viewers who are not diving this deeply into the information to do that. And so I think that the Ahsoka's walkabout and then her return, I don't think those storylines are going to be part of this situation either. All right, so this brings us down to 5 potential story arcs and 2 that'll actually appear in the Clone Wars Saved series. So here's where we start slicing and dicing a little bit more. That scene where Anakin sees Ahsoka and Bo-Katan in the holographic image, well, that scene is separate in the Clone Wars trailer from another scene where Anakin walks out of a hangar with Rex and also with Hunter, who is one of the clones from the Bad Batch series of episodes, and they look up in the sky and they see a ton of Republic capital ships in the sky. And so this does suggest something about the Outer Rim sieges, which were a number of battles that took place in the Outer Rim, and we'll get to that a little bit more in a moment. But what I want to suggest to you is that it seems like if that's really where we're going with this, then I think we might be able to eliminate 2 options right off the bat. First of all, there was going to be sort of a Top Gun but with clones situation, and that involved Rex and R2-D2 and them reprogramming a B2 super battle droid and all sorts of other, weird things that supposedly, according to the reference information on Wikipedia, started out light but went into some kind of dark places. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing that we're talking about here. So I would say let's rule that one out. There's also a story arc that was apparently going to touch on the Yuuzhan Vong, pronunciation again, one of the chief villains that was introduced in the old expanded universe once they decided they couldn't keep coming back to remnants of the Empire and clones of the Emperor too often anymore, and that it was sort of an X-Files-y creepy type invasion story where a scout ship showed up and was kind of assessing the strengths and capabilities of the Republic and the Jedi, and that there was some sort of alien abduction element to the thing. And yeah, I mean, I suppose it's possible that we could go in that direction because that would certainly give them the opportunity to set something up for the future because, hey, we need more story angles eventually to pursue in this whole galaxy far, far away. But seeing as how we're trying to complete the story of the Clone Wars, that one doesn't seem like it's a really good fit either. And so I would say that we're probably striking that one as well. So that leaves us with 3 potential story arcs left for the 2 story arcs remaining to fill in Clone Wars Season 7. So here we go. One of the 2 remaining story arcs I think is going to be the one that involves Kashyyyk. And the reason why I think this is because that story arc is supposed to involve Yoda and the Bad Batch. And so the fact that we see Hunter from the Bad Batch in that initial series of shots from the Clone Wars Saved trailer, well, that's one indicator right there. Another indicator is the fact that we have had it confirmed from sources that Tom Kane is going to be voicing at least 5 episodes of the new season of Clone Wars. And Tom Kane is the voice of Yoda, among others. He's also the voice of Wolf Yularen, and does the narration too. So I guess you could credibly say, if he's doing all 12 episodes, that would make perfect sense. But they've only said 5, that he's doing the voicing for 5 episodes. So that definitely does seem to strongly suggest that we're, talking about a Yoda situation. And then you could see where Wolf Yularen shows up maybe in the first episode for Siege of Mandalore, and they kick off out to Mandalore from there, and he has nothing to do with it from that point on. He's part of sort of the initial exposition of that story arc. So that's why I think we're going to be dealing with the Kashyyyk story arc, which involves a separatist incursion into Kashyyyk and Trandoshan involvement as well. That would be, the creatures that are like Bosk, for example, in case you're not familiar with the word Trandoshan, or Trandoshan, whatever the pronunciation is. And so that's one. And as for the other remaining arc, well, now we're down to 2 choices left. And the one I think is not going to be it is one where Padme and Anakin are supposed to return to Mon Cala because Padme is trying to address the issue of Palpatine having control over the Republic for an extended and unlimited time at this point. You know, he's not giving up his powers. There's no term limit on his power. And so she's investigating opportunities to try and put a limit on the situation. And they get to Mon Cala, and there's been a murder, and there's all sorts of other, intrigue and machinations and whatnot. And, if you're going to go out on a limb to get 12 more episodes of the Clone Wars produced, it strikes me that this is not necessarily the situation that you're looking for, as far as like, let's produce this arc because this one is, more important to tell than, say, the other story arc, which I think, maybe it gets into the realm of fan service, but that's pretty much what this is. I mean, it's fan campaigns that led to the revival here for the Clone Wars, and so it seems like doing this other story arc makes much more sense, and that remaining story arc has to do with a young Boba Fett and Cad Bane teaming up together. And according to the notes on Wikipedia, which a lot of this information is sourced from the Untold Clone Wars Tales panel that happened at Celebration Anaheim, and additionally supplemented by stuff that Dave Filoni and others involved with the Clone Wars have posted on social media from time to time, and also Ahsoka's Untold Tales, which was a panel at Celebration Europe back in 2016. That's where a lot of this information is coming from anyway. According to what's been shared in various outlets about this particular arc with Boba Fett and Cad Bane, Aurra Sing and Bosk, speaking of Bosk, and Embo and a couple other bounty hunters are supposed to appear in this thing, and also apparently a Tusken shaman, a Tusken raider who's a shaman, is going to appear because this happens on Tatooine for some reason. Don't know why or anything like that, because still don't know a lot about the story in general, but apparently at least those characters have appeared in concept art that has been shown in various outlets. So there you go. A Kashyyyk story arc, a Cad Bane Boba Fett story arc, and the Siege of Mandalore story arc. That's what I believe we're going to have for our 12 episodes of Clone Wars Season 7, aka #Clone Wars Saved. Now, I'd love to hear what you think about this, if you think I've got it dead to rights, or if you think that one of the other options I talked about is going to be the one that gets produced instead, or ones that get produced instead. By all means, leave me a comment wherever you happen to be catching this episode. And that is going to do it for this episode. So, I hope you're subscribing so that way you get the next one delivered to you, and the next one and the next one, without you even having to think about it. And I hope you will consider supporting this endeavor on Patreon as well, at patreon.com/SW7x7. For now, though, it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2018 Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.
Hey, here's a quick note from our corrections/addendums department. Like I told you on yesterday's episode, there's a bit of a misnumbering in the opening because we had to juggle around some things. This is actually episode number 1569, not 1568 like I said in the opening, and just wanted you to know because, hey, it was a little tougher to actually edit the 1568 out, quite honestly, than it is to drop this in here. So there you go, 1569, and regardless of what number it is, thank you so much for joining me for it.